As we are halfway through the year, I just wanted to do a little wrap up of my least favorite books, since I did one of my top 6 too that you can check out. I am actually having what could be my most positive reading year thus far, and I haven't read as many 1-star reads as I normally would. Yay to me! Finally honing down my taste a little better, but sometimes less liked books slip through. These are not ranked, these are just in order of how I read them. So first up is The Incandescent. This book actually really disappointed me because I had really high hopes for it. It was advertised as a sapphic deadly education, and it failed on all of those fronts. The sapphic romance was a kiss at the beginning, and then they broke up, and then they didn't talk again till the end of the book. And as for being like deadly education, all it was in similarity was an academic setting, and where one had demons, the other had monsters. I guess it's good that it wasn't more similar so it wouldn't feel like a copy-paste, but let me get into why I really hated this book. The FMC. Could not stand her. All she did was complain about being old. The plot was just a boring loop of her teaching, marking assignments, and complaining that she was too old to do anything. She was only 38. You're not too old to start new things or to do fun stuff or anything else at 38. I never wanted to slap a fictional character so much in my life. I managed to push through because I was hoping it was going to get better, but I really should have just DNF'd. It was a waste of time. Never the Roses is another one that made me pretty frustrated. I thought it had this potential to be a cute, cozy fantasy, but it missed the mark in so many ways. My comment with this is majority about the plot, so if you don't want to know too much about it, I suggest skipping to the next book. First off was her personality. She was a reclusive sorceress, lived alone, was spending the last of her days alone with her animals. Her animals also were like familiars in a way, and they definitely lacked attention in the book or like anything, which was really disappointing. So she lives alone, and one day this random traveler comes knocking on her wards, and she's like, oh, he's cute. His lips look so soft. I'm gonna let this random stranger in. She lets him in, and then he gets super flirty with her like immediately, and they fool around a little. The next day, this part really pissed me off. Remember, she was planning out to live the last of her days, and this was in like 10 or so years in the future. She was ready to go pretty soon. So the next day she gets her period, and she never really deeply thought about it before, and now she's like, wow, I could have had a child with this random stranger, and she's all like disappointed. No. And while this is happening, she's been dream walking, which is her magical power, to another powerful sorcerer's house and borrowing his books from his library. When we finally get his POV, we see him waking up, scratching his balls, and then going and discovering that one of his books was yoinked. Eventually he finds her, and then she's like, oh wow, screw this random stranger that's at my house, I want this guy instead. So yeah, that might tickle someone else's fancy, but it didn't tickle mine. Okay, so this one might get a little spicy. And I just want to say I didn't hate this book entirely, but I had high expectations because of the hype around it, and it definitely left me a little disappointed. I was really excited to read Alchemized, and it wasn't the plot or the dark themes. I knew what I was getting into. It was the writing. It just didn't click with me. I also feel like the stakes were never high, even with this ongoing war happening, and the magic system also felt like it was too complex and eventually just got messy and confusing. And with over 1,000 pages, I feel like things should have been really fleshed out, but things ended up being constant boring loops of the same things. So I was losing interest while reading. Maybe if it cut out a lot of it, I would feel better about it. I'm not sure though. I do wish this book got a true chance to stand on its own though, knowing that it was a fanfic beforehand. So I kept trying to compare things between that world and this world, and it kind of ended up taking over my experience reading this. I also never read Manacled, so I don't know if that made it better or worse. I also heard that Manacled was a bit better, so I don't know. I might give this one a reread one day to see if I feel better about it the second time around, but it's definitely not a priority because there's so many books I want to read, and this one's very chunky. So this one is another one that was also pretty hyped up, and I was disappointed because I didn't feel the same way about it after finishing. And yeah, so Bloodbound. This one really did have potential, but while I was reading it, there was something about the writing that did not feel cohesive to me. It was kind of off-putting. I felt like it was written by two people, and then when I looked at the author page at the back, yeah, it was written by two people. This is definitely a book that prioritizes vibes and emotional intensity over intricate plotting. Some world-building details feel way underexplained, and the pacing can occasionally jump between major emotional beats a bit too quickly for my liking. This was marketed as an adult book, but the writing feels more juvenile and reads more YA, which like I don't mind YA books, but this just felt a little lacking. I'm still going to continue with book 2 when it comes out because I think it has potential to improve, but if book 2 lets me out, then I won't go any further if it's longer than a duology. And the rare time when a vampire book lets me down, and that's Hollow. Hollow follows a woman named Mia who works in a bookstore and lives in a small town. She also has experience with the paranormal as she was able to see dead people and communicate with them, but this was just vaguely mentioned, but it was widely accepted by people who knew her. Then tossed on the back burner because her gift dried up. She soon then dies in a tragic car crash and awakens as a vampire. She is forced to leave her family behind and must join a new family. The vampires that turned her live separately as two families, but they travel together, I guess. She has basically a day to spend with each family because it was a crazy rush, and so before she has to choose which one she wants to live with forever. From then on, we kind of just get an info dump on each member in the family, of their past, how they became a vampire. And during this time, we also learn that there's a rogue vampire that's been turning people and using their blood because fresh vampire blood is special. The pacing of this was all over the place, and the world building was not fleshed out well. Like the characters' origin stories, those did not feel overly necessary and didn't add much to the actual story, especially because there was so many, and it felt like they were delivered in almost like a bullet point style. And following that, we don't really get any of the interactions from all these extra characters with Mia, so hearing all of their backstories was pretty unnecessary. And the prologue had me very iffy too, but I feel like I was more interested in the prologue, but it felt rushed, but also really long for a prologue. And the ending helps set the scene for what's to come, but I also think it would have been okay without it. The ending of the prologue and the plot twist at the end was not a plot twist. The villains in this book were comically bad, and the ending just felt extremely clumsy and very rushed. The book overall had way too many subplots, and for how short it is, nothing was able to get fleshed out properly. This is also one book that has made me pay more attention to marketing schemes so I don't get scammed again in the future. So next up is one that I actually haven't heard anyone talking about it, but when I shared my feelings about it during like a reading update, there was definitely a lot of people coming to its defense. So this began as a webtoon and was really popular, and then later translated from Korean into English and published into a book. I have not seen the webtoon, so I have no idea how that compares to this, but all the people who were coming to its defense were talking about the webtoon and not the book. So I feel like there has to be some big difference here. So firstly, this book starts with a very uncomfortable essay scene, but it's okay because they have to consummate the marriage. But Maxie has no idea what's going on, and she's shy and has a stutter, so she can't get her words out to question what's happening. It was just really weird and uncomfortable. And I saw a lot of people defending this because Riften was sweet and gentle, and yeah, it just made me really uncomfortable. Then eventually the book literally only becomes that. Like, they don't build a relationship because they don't talk much. All Riften does is say how crazy she makes him, and then they bang, and she eventually, after like the 30th million times, she starts to like it. Aside from that, there is no plot. The characters are extremely one-dimensional and boring. Maxie is a shy girl with a stutter, and she's also kind of stupid, but then she spent so much time reading books because that's all that she did, and it just doesn't make sense that she's actually this stupid. She has no character arc in the whole book, and she's basically learning how to become the lady of her house. Or her and Riften barely converse between one another, and whenever she asks him about stuff, he says a little, then asks her questions, and she doesn't want to answer them, so it just feels really pointless. So those are my least favorite books so far of 2026. I do think I've gotten better at picking out more 4 to 5 star reads, but sometimes a few bad ones slip through. Let me know if any of these books are your favorite or your least favorite.